Alright, your uniform freight classification 6000M, index to the rules. We're going to skip that and just go straight to Alright, application. Unless otherwise provided with the classification, your property transported subject to the provisions for the classification, acceptance, and use of the required, respectively, uniform domestic billing and landing, straight and or ordered. See pages 360 and 371. In order to consign for that, the consigner may have the option of shipping a property either subject to terms and conditions of uniform domestic bill of landing here and there set forth under the liability imposed by the common carriers or common law with the federal state statutes applicable thereto. The classification provided with a different rate for the different forms of bill of landing to be used. Respectively, a co-signer may elect to have a limited liability or common carrier's liability service unless otherwise provided with the classification, and property will be carried to reduce the rate specified and shipped as subject to all the terms and conditions of uniform domestic bill of landing. See pages 360 and 371 inclusively of the classification. Consigner elects not to accept all the terms and conditions of uniform domestic bill of landing. He should notify the agent with the forward carrier at the time of the property with his offered for shipment. If he does not give the such notice, to understand that he desires property carried subject to the in terms and conditions of the uniform domestic bill of landing. In order to secure the reduced rate, their carriers are required to transport. The carriers are not required to transport property by any particular train or vessel or at any time, any with a particular market, otherwise reasonable dispatch. See section 2A for the bill of landing conditions. Note the bills of landing require delivery within a specified time will be without force or effect, and the property carried not in subject to all terms, conditions, uniform domestic bill of landing will be carried at carrier's liability, limited only to provided by common laws, by laws of the United States and several states, insofar that they apply, subject in terms of conditions, uniform domestic bill of landing, so far that they are not inconsistent with such common carrier's liability rate charge, therefore 10% higher, subject to minimum increase of 1% per 100 pounds. The rate charged for property shipping subject for all terms, conditions, uniform domestic bill of landing. When consigners give the notice, agent forward carrying, he elects not to accept all the time terms and conditions, uniform domestic bill of landing. He desires common carrier liability service at a higher rate of charge. For service, carrier must be carrier must print, write or stamp uniform domestic bill of landing, a clause signed by the agent reader in consideration a high rate of charge of the property here and there described will be carried by the carrier's liability, limited only by as provided by law, subject to the terms and conditions of the uniform domestic bill of landing, insofar that they are not inconsistent with such carrier's liability. Shippers who print own bill of landing may, at their own option, use uniform straight bill of landing, print of the straight bill of landing short form, set forth page 96. See the note classification, where the references make all the term condition uniform straight bill of landing part of the case of the rail or rail water shipment, in which event of the transportation of shipment should be subject to terms and condition uniform straight bill of landing, the same as if it had been executed instead of straight bill of landing short form. Alright, this is Rule 1, Articles of Classified Subject Not Subject to Uniform Bill of Landings. Alright, insurance against marine risk. Cause insurance against marine risk will not be assumed by carriers unless they are specially provided for tariffs. Note, shippers may furnish a computer-generated straight bill of landing in a short form which will need not to be in any particular for providing shipper the bill and landing complete and contains all required shipment information to tender and carrier of the signature. Each such bill of landing must bear the straight bill of landing short form not negotiable, and must also bear the shipment statements and the effect of the bill of landing is to subject over the contract terms condition of uniform straight bill of landing to the applicable tariff classification provisions in effect for the date of the issue of the bill of landing. Rule number 2, descriptions should conform to classification, descriptions, other regulations. Section 1, description of the articles and shipping order of the billing landings should conform with classification, tariff description, and different ratings that are provided with the article according to the type of the packaging and package the shipment condition should be shown. Articles indicating explosive hazard material regulations of the Department of Transportation Agency Keller's tariff number BOE 6000 series must be described on the bills of landing and shipping as shown, and the tariff abbreviations may not be used when such descriptions differ for the tariff description in connection with the applicable rate is published. The tariff description must also be shown on the bill of landing shipping orders immediately following the basic description required by the hazard material regulations. Articles containing oil are described in Title 49 CFR 130.5 must be identified in shipping orders and bill of landing. Negotiating notation reading contains oil per Title 49 CFR Part 130. Rule 3, property and extraordinary value not accepted. Unless otherwise provided for the classification, the following property will not be accepted for shipment, nor premiums accompanying in other articles: bank bills, coins, currency, deeds, drafts, notes, and valuable papers of any kind, jewelry or other than costume and novelty jewelry, postage stamps, letters, and packets of letters without post stamps affixed. The United States Post Office Department mail of any class, previous precious metals and articles manufactured from therefrom precious stones, revenue stamps, antiques, other related, unrelated, old or rare precious articles extraordinary value. Rule number 4, freight liability to damage other than freight or equipment. Carriers are not obligated to receive freight liable to impregnate or otherwise damage equipment or the freight. Such freight may be accepted and receipted for subject delay of the suitable equipment may, or for lack of suitable equipment, be refused. Alright, Rule 5, basis for charges shipment not complying with classification requirements and miscellaneous regulations. Section 1, packing requirements and classification provide with the minimum protection that must be afforded, but the shipping container must be made with a material such for the strength to afford safe handling, reasonable and proper protection of the contents, protected against the damage to the other freight and equipment. Articles tendered for the transportation may be refused for shipment unless without such conditions so prepared with the shipment to render with the transportation, therefore reasonable, safe, practicable, whether or not the interior packing devices are as part of the specific requirements. Interior packing devices or forms must be provided where they are necessary to afford adequate protection against damage of the contents of the container. Articles necessary for the interior packing devices must be responsible with the full capacity, cubic capacity of the outer shipping container. Where the packing specifications not provided with articles will be accepted for transportation in any form of shipment other than in trunks, namely loose or bulk, or in packages on skids. When packaging is provided with a connection, separate description articles, such articles except for the separate with the description of the articles be accepted for the transportation in any container there other than trunks, whether or not constructed in accordance with the requirements of Title Rule 40 and 41 and 51. Any shipping from other than bulk or loose tanker cars or skids or other lift truck skids provide such container form shipment will render transportation for the freight reasonable, safe, and practicable. Articles secure fastened pallets, platforms, or skids for lift trucks will be related in same in bundles or in packages. Articles uniform and shape, size, shipping, and containers are authorized separate description of the articles wearing with the foreign turn and authorized being wrapped or heat shrunk, stretched plastic film. Articles shipping containers authorized to and separate description articles mounted with a pallet plate with the skid lifted trunks where in turn overwrapped with a heat shrunk, stretched plastic form. Otherwise secure fastened in pallets, platforms, skids, slip sheets will be rated in the same containers authorized provided shipper certifies on the bill of lading container to do so comply. D. The separate description of the articles provided with the acceptance of the form and shipment. The definitions contained with the specification, construction, packing, sealing, therefore contain Rule 40, 41, and 51 specific items. Containers must be such afford reasonable proper protection. Content separate description of the article provided with the forms of shipment other than in the containers or in special regulations of loading, bracing, securing, and tying. Such requirements must be fully complied with. When rule separate description articles require certification of bill of landing, shipping in order of the contained with the classification requirement throughout the area of the shipping certification bill of landing. Shipping orders submitted to carriers upon submittal with substantial proof that the containers comply with all respectable required regulation will refund increase the freight charges assessed due to such error. Unless otherwise provided in separate description articles, package specifications, conditions, and all other requirements governing articles and straight shipments will apply also with the same articles when in mixed shipments. Section 2. Articles will easily broken such as glassware, earthenware. Articles in glass, earthenware containers must be adequately protected with the shipping container against damage of the breakage liners, partitions, wrappers, exclosures, and other packing material. B. Unless otherwise provided, rate shown by the articles glass into inner containers will also apply with the same articles earthenware and molded plastic inner containers. D. C. Articles with the container specified must be enclosed by containers so that no ends of the otherwise protrude unless otherwise provided in separate description of the articles. D. Except for provided in Rule 39, articles will expand, liquefy under the possible change of the temperature during transportation must in containers that will not leak have sufficient outage space for the permit expansion without forcing any contents of the container. E. Provisions of the shipment articles loose do not relieve the shipper of responsibility of properly blocking and stowing with such articles are loaded by him. F. Provision of the shipment articles are not enclosed in containers do not obligate the carriers to accept the articles so offered with the transportation when closures in the container are reasonable and necessary for the protection and safety transportation of the rule. Rule 5 continued on the next page. Section 2 concluded, except when specifically indicated with the contrary with the individual items, containers, packages provided with the classification outside shipping containers, a rating show the connection with the area applicable with the contents of the such shipping containers in a bulk loose inner containers. Ratings are provided with the articles, barrels or boxes, glasses or barrels or boxes, in containers, barrels or boxes, in containers of barrels or boxes. Such ratings will not apply with the articles or carboys and barrels and boxes. When separate description article provisions are made with the shipment wrap bundles of rolls, such articles will be accepted the transportation fiber drum, whether or not constructed in accordance with the requirements of 51. Section 3. Unless otherwise provided, classification tariffs governed by the rate shown in the freight barrels will also apply such freight and hogheads, pipe, puncheons, terraces, cask, drums. See section 5, 6, 7, 7 and a quarter, 7 and a half, rule 40, rule 51, the half barrels and quarter barrels, 6 barrels, and 8 barrel kegs. The ratings of the freight box will apply with such freight with the fiberboard boxes and bundles secured with a metal strap with extrude-oriented nylon, polyester, polypropylene straps or in crates provided with fiberboard boxes with requirements of Rule 41. Bundles are also must be strapped with not less than 2 tapes or complete bands with a not less than 4-inch overlap of it on the tape itself. Wherein separate description and article of the classification tariffs governed by thereby provision made with the shipment of the boxes and also machined in all the bales of not machine pressed or in bales or bundles rate either the machine pressed barrels and bales not machine pressed bales or in bundles not rate of the high or not higher than the rate in boxes. Such articles are enclosed with a fiber container conform with the provisions of Rule 41. Classification, but securely bound metal straps provided with the articles in the boxes. Either if the rate is either the machine press bales, and not machine press, and bales and bundles is higher than the rate of boxes, the freight charge or so articles with enclosed fiber containers not conform with the provision of 41, securely bound with the metal straps, extruded orientated nylon polypropylene straps, rope, or with wire will increase 40% with any of the quantity, 10% of the CL, with a maximum increase 35% per 100 pounds above the charges applicable to the other shipments and boxes do not conform with the provision of Rule 41 classification. Unless otherwise provided where the metal straps, rope, or the wire is required separate from the package description is screwed, oriented in nylon and polyester polyethanol straps may be used as a substitute, but unless otherwise provided where the use of metal straps, rope, wire is required separate package descriptions. The filament requirements, pressure sensitive to gum tape authorized. The tape must be with a completed band of the 4-inch overlap of the tape itself. The manner described in the package description. It must be width of not less than 3/4 inch, twice required for the flat metal stripping, whichever is greater. Section 4. When articles are found in transportation which do not comply with the foregoing requirements, the following method of determining the freight charges will govern, but section will not be construed to provide rates should not be the basis of quoting rates in advance shipment. When the container is with the kind specified with the fail to conform with the regulation, construction, material, packing, closing, sealing, and any other regulations regulations or requirements is provided with a separate description of the Rule 40 when the articles are shipped and not required in container to be in containers, but in separate description articles specific regulations are provided for such form of shipment of the articles shipped in a manner specified without full compliance with specification. Regulations provided with the freight charges will be 20% of any quantity, 10% of the CL high or greater that provide the same articles shipped in conformity with the specified regulations. When articles or containers are shipping form in a kind, they are not specifically provided with a description. Such articles, freight charges should be assessed of the following basis. Articles dry or solid in bags, some bales not machine pressed in bundles when the description are not provided 20% higher in quantity, 10% CL than barrels and boxes, whichever is higher or greater. When shipped in barrels, the freight charges will be the same as boxes and same as barrels. In crates, 20% higher quality, 10% higher CL barrel and boxes, whichever is higher or greater. In machine press bales and bales not machines, same as barrels or boxes, same as barrels or bundles, with the description not provided 20% higher quantity, 10% CL when the barrels or boxes, whichever is higher. In pails, kits, or tubes, 20% higher greater, 10% higher than barrel boxes. In baskets, same as the bags, barrels, not machine pressed bundles, which when the description not provided 20% higher quantity, 10% higher than barrels or boxes, which higher is greater. Bundles, same as barrels, not machine pressed, in bags with a description not provided, 20% higher quantity, 10% higher CL for the barrels and boxes, whichever the grade. The articles loose in boxes, 20% higher quantity, 10% higher CL with a bundle with a package of a description not provided, 50% higher with the quantity of the, and 20% higher than CL than barrels, bags, and boxes and crates, whichever is higher and greater. In tanker guards, same as bulk and barrels, see section 35. Metals and can partially jacketed, 20% higher quantity, 10% higher CL. Metal cans completely jacketed when the description is not provided, 35% higher in quantity and 15% CL in the barrels and boxes. In metal jackets, completely jacketed, 20% higher quantity, 10% higher than metal cans and barrels and boxes. In kits and pails, 20% higher quantity, 10% higher CLs in the barrels. Metals can crates, 20% higher than quantity, 10% CL with the metal cans and barrels or boxes, whichever is higher or greater. Articles of loose boxes, 50% higher in quantity, 20% higher in CL than barrels or boxes, whichever is higher. In tanker guards, same as bulk as barrels, see subject rule 35. The provisions of Section 4A and 4B will also article the transport of specific commodity with rates publicly tarified, governed by the classification under rates shown established by the exemption of the to this classification. Miscellaneous regulations. Section 5 of the application increase charge for the provided in Section 3 and 4 will increase the charges only to apply with a portion of shipment which does not comply with the tariff requirements. Alright, Section 1, the name of the one ship of the one consignor with the dwelling destination shall appear on the shipping order bill for the landing, except for the shipping order and the bill of landing may not specify the name of the part and chain of the destination to be notified of the arrival shipment. Issue bill of landing shipment to consign with the tray into order at one point with the consignor's address, instructions to notify the consignor of the other party. Any other point will be permitted only with the following condition: when the consignor of the party of the notified advice is located with a point inaccessible to delivery with the rail carriers, when the consignor part of the notified advice located at prepaid station on a roll-free delivery route interior, in which such a case that must be consigned or to adjacent open station designated by shipper. When the designation station is consignor post office address adjacent to such station differently named, the rule does not prohibit the showing of the points at which shipments are to be stopped in transit for partial loading, unloading. For such partial loading, unloading specifically authorized by the carrier's tariffs apply applicable to such shipments. One consignor, consignee, and designation of bill of landings. Rule 7. Freight considered ordered. Freight consigned to order. Section 2. Issue with the bill of lading. Shipment consigned with the order prohibited unless in the name of the person, firm, or the corporation who orders the shipment is consigned with the plainly shown there on their words to order. Delivery of shipments and covered order bills of landing. Section 3. Surrendering the original bill of landing properly and properly endorsed with the required with the delivery of the property therein described. The property must be delayed in advance surrendering of the bill of landing and to or directly by a party whose state the see note 1 in the carrier the writing orally promptly confirmed with the writing the owner's or owner unlawfully entitled possession of the property. The bill of landing has not been lost or delayed, destroyed, or otherwise not immediately available to banks or other sources or states. See note 1. Writing that if when the shipment is delivered to him, the error is directed by him, he will be at the time either by the owner or is lawfully entitled with the possession of the property who presents for the carrier's substitute bill of landing security in the form of 1. Substitute in currency, certified check, bankers, cashiers, check an amount with 125% of the invoice value of the property, or 2. The carrier's option substitute a specific bond indemnity with the surety about amount equal twice the invoice of the value, or carrier's option substitute 3. A blank bond of the indemnity with surety, and carrier's option number 4. Substitute open-ended with indemnity with the corporate surety, the duly authorized right surety bond with the regular engaged such business. So specific bond or indemnity is one given the protected delivery of the single shipment. The blanket bond is an indemnity of one that can be repeatedly made useful for the cancel provided with it here an option with the carrier. The bond executed by the partner and surety of the firm that shall not be accepted. An open bond is one which may repeatedly be canceled with the carrier's option in accordance with the terms of them apply with separately with each shipment amount with the equal to twice the invoice or value thereof, and which shall provide with the original bill of landing properly endorsed is not surrendered within 5 days exclusively of Saturdays, Sundays, and blank holidays immediately following the day whereon shipment was delivered. A liability surety will respectively such shipment with such shall automatically be doubled. All bonds and indemnity must be satisfaction accepting carrier as to form and amount of surety. When specified bond and indemnity has been accepted, the original bills of landing must be surrendered properly and closed as soon as available at the bank or other source. Rule 7 continue on the next page. Section 3 conclude that the shipment has been relieved of the blank bond indemnity. The original bill of landing properly with endorsed must surrender as soon as available to the bank or the other short of the event with the required bill with the landing is not surrendered within 5 days exclusive for the Saturdays, Sundays, and bank holidays, or at carrier's option unless your time immediately following the day of the shipment was delivered. Further delivery of the shipment under the bond shall cease unless until the principal shall deposit the carrier's agent 1 and substitute 1 or 2 the specific bond indemnity and amount with the equal twice of the invoice value of the property where the corporate surety duly authorized to write surety bonds and regularly engaged with its business except with the accompanying advance evidence acceptable with the carrier settlement and shipment that has been accomplished. Specific bond with surety approved, then the carriers may be accepted. Or on the 3 until substitute 4 is open into the bond furnishing principal for the shipper. Any deposit substitute 1 shall be refunded upon surrender of the bill of lading properly endorsed. Upon receipt of the carrier specific bond indemnity with assure of the amount of the equal to the invoice value of the property except for the case of the part of the operates with the blank of the bond surety with the specific bond shall be corporately surety duly unauthorized to write surety bonds regularly engaged in such business. At a carrier's option, open-ended bond indemnity, or with a corporate surety duly authorized surety bonds regularly engaged in such business. Note 1. The writing may be contained in a bond separate instrument or may relate to designated shipments, or to all shipments, including future shipments, or designated class. Alright, freight can sign with a party notified with the advised party. Section 3.5. The issuing straight bill of landing shipment that can sign with the one part notified advised with the other party is prohibited unless the name of the person, firm, corporation shipment is consigned with the plainly shown after the words consigned the name of the person and the form of the corporation advised is shown immediately there under proceeds with advice. Delivery of shipments covered by straight bills of landing. Section 4. Shipment of the straight bills of landing include shipment that is consigned with the one party notified by the other party in respect of whose carriers are obligated to not to make the delivery except for the surrendered written order. Other required document may deliver the advance surrender of the written order. Other required document as is directed as part of the state with the same note 1 with the carrier in the writing orally with the promptly conform in writing as he is her owner. Lawfully entitled to possession of the property written order with the other required document has lost or destroyed or otherwise not immediately available to the bank or other sources of the states and see note 1 in writing that if and when the shipment is delivered or directed by him he will at the time the other lawfully entitled to possession of the property resident of the carrier substitute with a written order other than required document security and form. Substitute 1 currency certified check banker's cashier check an amount with 125% of the invoice and of the value of the property. At the carrier's option, substitute a specific bond indemnity with assure of the amount equal to such invoice or values over the carrier's option. Substitute 3 a blank bond indemnity with the surety. Carrier's option substitute open-end bond indemnity with the corporate surety duly authorized rates surety bonds and regularly engaged in such business. Specific bond indemnity 1 given them protect with the delivery of a single shipment of the blank bond indemnity 1 with the repeatedly made by the unit if canceled with the provided with the here and there option with the carrier the bond executed by the partner as a surety of the firm shall not be accepted. The open-ended bond 1 of the may be used repeatedly until the cancel with the carrier's option according to the terms will apply with separately with each for the shipment and amount equal to twice the voice invoice for the value thereof, the which shall provide for the written order other required document not to surrender with the 5 days exclusive for the Saturdays, Sundays, blank holidays immediately following the day of the where on the shipment that was delivered. The liability of the surety will respect in such shipment will automatically be doubled. All of the bonds for the indemnity must be satisfactory to acquire accepting carrier as to form the amount of the surety with the specific bond indemnity has been accepted with the written order. Other required document must be surrendered soon as available at the bank or other sources. Section 4 concluded when the shipment has relieved under the blanket bond indemnity, the written order with the required document must be surrendered as soon as available to the bank or other source of the event with the written order or the required document is not surrendered within 5 days exclusive for the Saturday, Sunday, with the bank holidays or at carrier's option lesser time immediately following the day of the which the shipment was delivered. Further, with the delivery of the shipment under the bond shall cease unless until the principal shall deposit the carrier agent 1 substitute 1 or 2 specific bond indemnity amount with equal to twice the invoice value or the value of the property with the corporate surety with the duly authorized surety with the bonds regularly engaged with such business except for the company of evidence accept the carrier that settlement of the shipment has been accomplished. Specific bond surety approved of the carriers be accepted in 3 unless until and substitute 4 open-end bond furnishes principal any other shipper. Any deposit under Substitute 1 shall be refunded upon surrender with a written order of the required document upon receipt with a carrier with a specified bond and indemnity with a surety of the amount equal to twice of the invoice value of the property, except for the case of the party who operates with the blanket of the bond. Surety with the specific bond shall corporately surety duly authorized to write. Surety bonds regularly engaged in such business that a carrier's option open-ended with the bond and indemnity with the corporate surety duly authorized to write. Surety bonds are regularly engaged in such business. Note 1. If the writing cannot be obtained in bond with separate instrument, it may relate to the designated shipment and shipments to all shipments that will include future shipments designated classes. Delivery of import shipments. Section 5. In lieu of the statement secured with the required within Section 3 and 4, import shipments from foreign countries include foreign possessions within the United States may in carrier's option be delivered in advance of surrendering bill of lading upon receipt acceptance by the carrier with a letter and indemnity from the bank institution which contains a statement that each affects such institution's owner of the property that secured with their other beneficial interests are the same. Export shipments points in Mexico. Section 6. Shipping order bills and landing tendering the original carrier covering shipments destined to Mexico must include the following information: final destination, United States border crossing point, name of the Mexican consignor, broker and consignor of the border crossing, the final destination, Mexico. Note, will not apply with the BNS IAC and also not applicable to connection farm products, STCC 01 series food kindred products, STCC 20 series traffic moving from Viva North, NS and T, North South and TM Union Pacific. Alright, Rule 8. Advance charge is not prevented except as provided in tariffs of carrier's point, origin, and destination transit station. In this case, must be no charge in description of advance that shipper to owners, consignors, and agents thereof, or no other dray man or warehouse man. Section 9. Prepayment of guarantee charges. Section 1. All charges must be prepaid, guaranteed any shipment when the judgment agent with the point of the origin diversion point would not be for sale or relieve life the total amount of freight charges due their destination or stop-off point. Section 2. Freight on which prepayment is required may approval of the General Freight Department of the origination with carrier be forwarded to the guarantee shipper with all the charges will be paid. Destination stop-off point full explanation must be made on the way bills. Section 3. Except as otherwise provided by the tariff of the shipment intent of the carrier, the shipment that requires a certain assessments, weight of the destination, reason, destination, and weight of the agreement, shipper required to determine the applicable freight charge in such shipments may not be tendered accepted by carriers. A prepaid shipment that must be tendered as a collect shipment. Is consignee indicate the desire of the freight with the charge that they require to him appropriate notation of bill and of landing does not sign Section 5. Bill of landing destination carrier will comply subject to the STB credit stipulations. Except for the otherwise providing classification or tariff governed by thereby subject to the provision note 1 of the number of articles with which the same different ratings and rates are provided with the straight carloads are shipped at one time, one consignor, one consignor of the destination with the carload. Rule 14 following will apply. Section 1 of articles are charged with the actual authorized estimated weight at the straight of carload class commodity rate, not mixed with carload, all commodity, all freight rates applicable to each of the article except for the provided rules 12 and 45. The carload minimum weight will be the highest provided for an article with a mixed carload. Any of the deficit in the minimum weight will be charged at the highest carload rate applicable to any of the articles with a mixed carload. The section will not apply with the shipments covered in Section 2. Note if the applying with the rate applicable to each of the article must be in rate with a specified state with a tariff dollars and cents for the per 100 pounds per ton. May not open end the incentive rate with a lower rate with a weight with an excess with the stated minimum weight except as follows. When the entire shipment is loaded on one car, the total weight of the article or the group of the articles listed in the same open incentive of the rate with any of them subject to the rate with the loaded in the car open end incentive rate may be used extent of the weight with such articles group articles exceed the base of the minimum weight necessary to obtain open-ended incentive rate. Section 2 on a mixed carload shipment description section straight carload rate not mixed carload all commodity all freight rate applicable highest class rated article contained in the carload will be applied with the entire shipment. The carload minimum weight will be the highest provided in any of the article mixed carloads. Mixed carloads shipments contain one or more of the following commodities of the building woodwork, except for the provision Section 1 will apply with the mixed carload. Ship the building woodwork, visa, blinds, doors, glazed, not glazed, sash glass, not glass, stair strips attached to KD frame windows with or without pulleys and with or without weather strip attached and combined with or without wire screens, looking packages, molding, carpenter's plywood built up in wood. Provision Section 1 will also apply with the building woodwork. Will ship the mixed load carloads like paper articles, doors, glazed, Glazed with a shipment of the mixed carloads, tabletops, doors, glazed or not glazed plywood will be shipped in a mixed carload, metal channels, metal extrusions, metal levers, with the weight of the channels, extrusion levers are not exceed 10% of the weight in which charges are assessed. The furniture part in mixed carloads will be built up in the wood, doors, glazed, not glazed plywood, veneer, future weight of the furniture not exceed 10% of the weight of which charges are assessed. Sugar beet and cane furniture and furniture parts, butter, nibun, margarine, shelled eggs, eggman, almond, whites and yolks, eggs, nubin and cheese, dressed poultry, and mixed carloads, fresh meat, packing, housing products, except for the provision section 1 will apply with the margin, mixed carloads, shortening, nibble, vegetable oil, shortening, cooking, or solid oil, freight interchange with delivered vessels for foreign and intercoastal, coastal-wide services unless the entire carload comes with one of the following: export freight, coastwise freight, import freight, intercoastal freight, and billed and domestic rate treated for the domestic shipment. In Section 3, the rules will not apply upon article of the carload rates provided upon the shipment of the livestock. Rule 24 will not apply to the mixed carload shipped under the following conditions when applicable to minimum weight subject to 34 when the carload is carrying excess contained in the article which would subject to the Rule 34 shipped in straight carloads. Section 4, subject to the condition in Section 1 and 2, the aggregated charge on the entire shipment, but it may be lower in consideration of the article if they were divided into two more separate carload shipments for the charge accordingly with two more separate carloads are loaded in one car. Minimum weight for each separate carload shall be applicable for the car length not in the excess of 40 foot 7 inches. Section 5, a lower charge result of the application Section 1, 2, and 4 of the rule under this provision specific carload mixture over the large lower charge resulted under the provision specified carload mixture and under the application section 1, 2, and 4 of the rules so a lower charge will apply. Alright, gross and estimated weights. Unless otherwise provided, classification charge will be computed with the gross weights, except whether the estimated weights are authorized. Such estimated weights shall be used when articles are transported, loaded, pallets, platforms, skids, and such pallets, platforms, skids must be furnished by the shipper and explained that the weight thereof is in charge of the rate applicable to the freight loaded. Thereon temporary blocking, standard strips, and similar bracing dunnage supports will be used and shall be charged and provided in Rule 30. Provisions of rule will not apply with the account of the BNF, BOC, T, CSXC, FVW, IC, NS, UP, WC, unless otherwise provided with the classification minimum charge per car with the CL shipment that shall be provided with the paragraph C. Does not apply with the charge of the switching ship with either in connection with the line haul with the inter-yard switching. The two or more CL shipments are loaded within one car. The minimum charge for the CL shipment should be provided with the paragraph 6. When provided one car, you to accommodate the shipment, the minimum charge for each for the car you should be provided with the paragraph 6. One of the minimum should be applied with the entire shipment of the commodity, which subject for the part with the low or overflow of the rules, classification, and tariff governing movement. In the case of continue throughout the movement, the shipment at hand with a combination separate rates, where the separate rates are governed in saying the different classification published herein per car minimum prescribed in paragraph 6 does not apply with the separate factors, but the total of the combined charges. Minimum charge per car is provided with it for paragraph 6 shall be exclusive of the charge for the car rental services, car cartridges, demirage, diversion, elevation, liftridge, loading, private car mileage, protection, heat and cold, reconsignment, stop off, storage, switching, transfer, transit privileges, unloading and weighing. The charges referred to paragraph 1 through 5 shall be as follows. And then it shows your minimum charges per shipment, and it goes down. It's shows paragraph A, B, E, and G, A, E, F, and G, application sheet 1, then continued. Minimum charges per shipment applies only between the points described in paragraph A through items X9. At points applies only between the points paragraph F over the X9. Applies only as follows between the points described in paragraph D and item X9. Points described in paragraph D of the X9 are one hand, and points are described in paragraph G or X9 on the other hand. Applies only between the described paragraph B on X9 on one hand. Points described in paragraph D item X9 and points are described in paragraph G items X9 otherwise on the other hand. Applies only between the item points described in paragraph C of the items X on the one hand, point with the described in paragraph E of the items X on the X. Applies only with between the points described in paragraph E on one hand, points of the described in paragraph D of the items X9 and points described in paragraph G items X9 on the other hand. Applies only between the points described in paragraph G X9. Applies on the joint line traffic along all lines significant single traffic Viva ALM AN, CLC, CN, CSP, ST, formerly BP, applies single traffic law follows, and then it lists the railroads, minimum shipping per charges. Alright, Rule 14, application of carload rates. Section 1. Carload rates are applied with a carload freight when shipped to one station in one of the cars, otherwise provided in Rule 24, 29, and 34. One calendar day, midnight to midnight, by one shipment delivery, one consignor with the one destination is loaded with a shipment unload with the consignor. Only one bill of landing for one loading point. One freight bill shall be issued with the such CL company. The minimum CL weight will provide with the lowest weight on which the CL rate will apply. Section 2, carloads rates are applied to only the carload shipments described in Section 1, which under tariff lawfully are filed with according additional service privileges described below. Loading by the carrier under the provision of tariff applicable to shipping station, stopover the station. Unload by the carrier under the provision of the tariff applicable to destination of the station, stopover station. Split deliveries to more than one party to destination with the carrier under provision of the tariff applicable to destination station. T. Stopover privileges complete with loading and parcel unload with the route under the provision of the tariff of the carrier serving the stopover station. Transit privileges under the provision of tariff permitting or outbound shipment with a transit point to consider the portion of inbound cardboard onboard load shipments from one or more origins. One shipment on shipment according to the transit privileges section 1 of the rules converted or considered as complied with the carload shipment with a transit point complied with the provision of section 1 of this rule. Section 3, when freight is loaded in or on a car by a shipper, such car is not fully loaded but is tendered to the CL shipment, the shipment will be charged as for as a carload. Alright, 19, knockdown articles. Rate is also provided with the articles of the knockdown will only appear with the articles unassembled with the taken apart with the manner to reduce the bulk article with at least 33.33% of the normal shipping cabbage when set. The merely setting an article into parts with the reducing in bulk with at least 33.33% does not constitute knocking down or entitled article for the knockdown rates. Rate provided with the articles knockdown flat will only apply to articles unassembled or taken apart in such a manner that reduce the bulk article with 63 to 2/3% of the normal shipping coverage. Just set up merely separating articles in parts with reducing bulk and at least 66.2/3 does not constitute knocking down flat entitled any of the article with the knockdown flat rates. Alright, 20. Parts and pieces constituting a complete article. Parts and pieces constituting a complete article received in one shipment or one bill of landing will be charged at a rate provided with the complete article. 21. Nested articles. Section 1, unless otherwise provided with classification of the terms nested and nested soil mean with the nested. There are 3 more different sides of the articles must be enclosed with each of the smaller with the next larger. 3 or more articles must be placed within the other so the upper article will not project above the next lower articles more than 1/3 or its height. Next nested solid. There are 3 or more articles must be placed one within or upon the other so that the outside of the surface is one above the contact with the inner side surface is one below each of the upper articles will force project with the next lower articles more than 1/4 inch. Section 2 provision with the Section 1 rule prohibiting application article with a different name of the material when whether grouped in description separately or nested enclosed within the other. 22. Wooden articles in the rough and the white and finished. Section 1. In terms of the rough use of the specification, wooden articles apply with such articles that are not manufactured, then sold and hewn or planed or bent. Section 2. In the white applies to wooden article with further manufacture that provided in Section 1 may include the one coating prime, but does not apply with the articles having painted or varnished. Section 3. The term finished applies with wooden articles after they have been in the stage of manufacture provided in Section 2. 23. Freight and bunkers in refrigerator cars. Freights must not be loaded in bunkers or refrigerator cars. And then Section 1, CL freight cars authorized minimum weight of 30,000 pounds or more receive the extent of the quantity of the car loaded in one or more cars. The following shall be apply. Shipment must be made from one station, one shipment one calendar day running of the midnight to midnight, one shipping day of the order of the bill of landing, one consignor to destination. Each car except for the carrying also must load with a heavily loaded conditions will permit each of the car loaded with the charge of the actually authorized estimated weight subject to the estimated minimum CL carload weight and carload rate applicable. The marked capacity for the car shown in the official railway equipment register RER 6413 series, National Railway Publication Company agent. Section 2, except for those providing Rule 60, the excess for the other quantity that be loaded with one car shall be in charge. If the load of one car, except for the providing paragraph C, with the actual authorized estimated weight of the car load rate applicable to the entire shipment, subject to the weight of the over 10,000 pounds. If one open car, except for the providing paragraph C, the actual authorized estimated weight, carload rate of the rating applicable to the entire shipment, subject to minimum charge of 4,000 pounds of the rate class of 100 rate. If the loading of one car is specially prepared either by carrier shipper to include the damage-free car over the permanent dunnage cars equipped with the bars or racks or other devices not ordinarily done due to the secure the landing actual authorized estimated weight of the carload rating applicable to the entire shipment, subject to minimum weight of 15,000 pounds. Alright, 24, freighting excess full on carload. Section 3, carriers must handle the excess through the freight station, may load the freight in and on car carrying excess unless otherwise provided with the tariff. When two cars are furnished with accommodate load, no difference either the perform placing two cars loading, unloading. There will be performed one car furnished and loaded except for the trackable disabilities existing place for the loading and unloading will make the necessary cars furnished may be played with different adjacent locations, same location at different times. Section 4, the waybill of each car, whether excess for the full load, may be given in reference to waybill with each over the car and the other shipment. Section 5, the rule will not apply when the specific item of the classification provided otherwise or on the bulk of the freight, non-livestock, nor on the freight over the character of any portion of the time of the transportation required for the load in either heated or refrigerated, insulated, weight, vented tanker cars not owner freight, authorized minimum carload weight is which is less than 30,000 pounds, nor the freight over the minimum carload weight, for which is subject to the Rule 34, nor the freight over the which is Rule 29. Iron versus steel and gauge metal. Unless otherwise contrary appears the word iron, whether the use is also steel and vice versa, except the otherwise provided the reference is made with the gauge metal, it means U.S. standard gauge. Alright, loading and unloading, and we're going to cut the tape there.